Because I'm just gonna say it, just lay it out flat, right for you, right now. Okay, tired of the closed-minded individuals, like, just get the hell out of my party, okay? Just leave. I'm trying to like you, and you're just making it very difficult. One of the main things about being conservative is we really are into the Constitution of the United States of America. And one of the things in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights is the First Amendment, which two of the things out of the four things that it really grants are the freedom of speech and freedom of religion. And I'm tired of hearing about how we're not supposed to be, like, saying certain things or whatever. Like, I'm being told, like, Kerry, you sound dirty or something, when I'm, like, joking, and I'm just gonna be straightforward. Like, that's complete freedom of speech. First of all, I'm joking. I mean, come on. Like, do I look like any sort of promiscuous person to you? No, I'm not. I'm a very well-rounded young woman. I'm very respectful. And I want other people to be too. I mean, I don't like promiscuous guys. Like, if you are, then I want nothing to do with you. Like, I'm not druggy. I don't binge drink. So I'm somebody who's highly respected. I have a lot of self-esteem, and maybe that's why I'm able to joke like that and joke around about things like that. But other than that, it's complete freedom of speech, and it shouldn't be violated. Being a conservative and a Republican, it's something that I follow. It's freedom of speech. A real Republican, not a rhino. And yes, if somebody is telling somebody else that they are not, because it's a big Republican thing, we are conservatives. We follow the United States Constitution, and if you're going to tell somebody that they can't act a certain way, or they can't say a certain thing, or they can't do something, or they can't practice a religion, then you can get the hell out of the Republican Party, because I am tired of people like this. So yes, you are a rhino. If you don't think that as a woman I should be able to do what I want, as a young woman anyway, I'm 17 obviously, a man over there, he should be able to do what he wants just as well. I mean, if you don't agree with that, then yes, you are a rhino. And unfortunately right now, that accounts for a whole lot of the Republican Party. But let me tell you, you're no different than any liberal. So you can leave. And no, the liberals do not support anybody's freedom of expression because they make fun of somebody who's a Christian, or even who is like this devout Jew, or is somebody who even recognizes that there's any kind of God, or I'm trying to think of something else. If you don't have sex before you're married, then you're like this really weird person, and you're not really, significant to society. Of course, these are just examples of liberal authoritarianism. But I think you get where I'm going with this, is that if you're going to be somebody that is for personal liberty, anti-IRS, anti-NSA, you are a real Republican. But if you are going to tell me, okay, that I am doing something wrong, I'm saying the wrong thing, okay, then you are a rhino. You are not a libertarian, you are not a Republican, you are a rhino, and you need to get out, because I am not dealing with you. Do not tell me that I am not a Republican, because I don't think the way that you think. And I have proof right here. Abraham Lincoln, Gettysburg Address, Now this is a pure example of a real Republican. He is the father of the Republican Party. Of course, you could call other people fathers or mothers of the There should be more people that are recognized as mothers because they are there. But unfortunately, the liberal media wants women to be dependent on the government, so there is no mothers for the Republican Party. But anyway, so basically, he is my greatest inspiration. And because I want to prove right here what a real Republican is, I am going to read the Gettysburg Address. And if you have not heard this, then you should really read it. It's one of the most well-known, it's not even that long, it's very short, but one of the most well-known American historical pieces. Really defined, I think, what how the Republican Party they were the ones who freed the slaves. I want you to remember this. And if you're somebody who's black, who's watching, black American, not African American, you're an American. And so you're not an African American because you might not even be African. I don't want to sound like Jesse Jackson. You're an American. And that's it. And we might have different color skin, but you're still an American. I want you to know that. If you're black, and you're watching this, I almost said African American. I want you to know that you're an American. You're not an African American because maybe your ancestors are from the Dominican Republic or somewhere else. So if Jesse Jackson is telling you you're an African American, don't listen to him. But besides the point, this is, I think, a really good piece in defining the Republican Party, because we were the ones that freed the slaves. We were against the Ku Klux Klan. We were supportive of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., even though he didn't like associating himself with political parties, they say a lot of the ways that he thought were Republican. And I think during the 1980s, when you had the really ultra right come in and kind of come off mean, you had kind of ended it for us. And I think my generation of Republicans are kind of going to bring that back in. But I think this is really important. And I know you probably don't want to hear me read, so you can fast forward for the 2 minutes in to when this is going to happen, but I have to say this. It's the greatest piece. I mean, I love this. The Gettysburg Address. So, 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. I say men. Men and humans. Just remember that. Maybe he might have thought men, but they're still. Just kind of keep that in mind. When you think of men, this is what I always think of. Think of humans. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on the great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who have gave their great lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they have fought here, have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. And we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. Thank you. And that is from the wonderful President Lincoln, who is probably my greatest influence as a young Republican.